When I got here, I met Colin Presley. Colin works up at Wardford Farm. He works the fields, he raises sheep. He's the head elder of the church.
Well, we met Matt the first time in Methlick in the pub here around the corner there. We tried to introduce him to a few names. We tried to give him a brief outline of the village and who is who and where was where.
And to introduce me to the parish, he showed me a map. Colin then began to recount for me the names of each person who lived in each home, which also had names. And I thought, he's doing this from memory.
I live in a farm called Wardford, which is a name given to a part of the River Eithne which was very shallow and used to be able to cross over there with the horse and gig. Other big farms are Auchencrieve, Cato Auchencrieve, Stephen Mackey, late Stephen Mackey, Balchwindichi, Lee Haddo. There's just a number of farms around the parish here.
He had all these names memorized, and not just the names, but their stories. He knew the history of the families, the good, the bad, the painful. He just kept describing the people he knew and loved and looked after.
Things are done here correctly, perhaps leisurely, but I think there's a far better quality of life here in this small village where everybody knows everybody and there's a strong community spirit amongst us all. And he was a man from America, young, fast living perhaps, and we thought, well, here we could maybe educate them in the more slower things of life.
So the woman I buried is Ethel Davidson. And she was 92 years old. In talking to her family about how she lived, I found out she never once left Methlick. Someone like Ethel is known in a way I cannot imagine being known. In the beginning, this fishbowl world was a little bit scary. I can't say oppressive, but I was kind of thinking, my goodness, they can see everything I'm doing. When I watched how Colin would listen to me, or to somebody else, or take the time to visit someone, I realized I would need to make a whole lot more time than I used to be present with people.
If you live in the same community with other people, you also have the benefit of seeing God's grace at work in them. There's brother so-and-so. Don't go within 2 miles of him or Krakatoa will look like a penny banger. After 10 years, you can probably get within half a mile of him. After 40 years, you can maybe get within 6 feet of him. Okay, if God can do that with him, maybe he can work with me too.
Now, maybe the slowing down just has to do with more of a habit of being there. But something has to happen. You can't just rush through life. One of the things that technology makes it more difficult for us to do is that there's so much quick information. And if you don't get quick information, you probably think, well, forget about it. Somebody else will figure it out. But nobody's going to figure out somebody's name. You've got to pay attention for that.
Some years ago, there was a theologian who wrote a book called 3 Mile an Hour God, because basically we walk, most humans walk roughly 3 miles an hour. The thought of traveling at only 3 miles an hour fills most of us with horror now. If we are walking, if we are going at 3 miles an hour, we are going at a much more, if you like, humane pace, and there is time to process what we're seeing and what we're experiencing and smelling and knowing. And then the thought that maybe, if we are made in the image of God, maybe this is why we sometimes get so frustrated with God. We want God to go at 60 miles an hour. If I see what I want God to do, I want to do it right now. And in fact, God is walking slowly around Palestine, around Galilee. God is doing what God is doing in God's time. And maybe if we were prepared to slow down a bit, look who's talking, we might actually be able, paradoxically, finally to catch God up.
The idea of slowing down to catch up with God is counterintuitive. It makes no sense. People used to wish each other well with the expression, Godspeed to you, by which they meant, we hope it goes quickly. Maybe God's speed really is 3 miles per hour. And if we walk with him, we will let him know us and let other people know us too. Colin came by the manse one day, and he knew I wasn't me. And he put it nicely. He said, "Matt, you come alive Monday nights at the gatherings when you're talking to people, asking questions. It's a little different on Sundays. And you should risk trying that on a Sunday morning." And when he said I should risk trying it, I felt two things. I felt great excitement and great fear. Fear because if I tried speaking without my notes, I didn't know what would happen, but I feared what would happen. I would freeze, I'd get lost, I'd feel a fool. And that might not be other people's fear, but it's mine. But I also felt great excitement because I thought if I could just talk face to face to people about Scripture, about things they care about, things I care about, this could be a conversation. So I took the risk. I sat in the front row with the congregation all behind me, and I heard two voices. One was saying, "Go for it. Enjoy this. You got nothing to lose." The other voice said, "You have everything to lose. You're a preacher. You're meant to preach a good sermon. You've got people who need to hear it." It was an accusing voice. And I knew which one to trust. One's the devil's, one's God's. One leads to freedom, one leads to guilt. But I could not have won that battle in my brain by myself. I needed help. And that's when I believe the Spirit helped me stand, turn, and face the congregation, who in facing them ceased being the congregation. There was Ann Gardner, Liam, his sister Lexi, all the people I knew who would give me the grace I could not give myself. There was Sandy Forbes, Margaret, Jan, Sue, and Evelyn, Valerie Mitchell, and Granny Wallace, and my family, Madeline, Chapman, Iona, Amy Kate, my wife Julie. I was in a fishbowl, and I was unafraid. This is what Tom Wright is writing about. This is what Alan Torrance can do naturally, looking me in the eye. This is what I was now tasting in talking to people who were once strangers, who had given me grace. This is how Jesus changed the world, and is still changing me.
I'm not sure that we can ever go back and pretend that we like people were 2,000 years ago. For most of us, that's not an option. It seems to me what we have to do is to learn to use wisely the gifts that we now have been given.
Becoming known is a mutual process. It's a giving and receiving, holding nothing back and not saying, "I refuse to accept this aspect of you," or "I refuse to give this aspect of myself."
You know, some people say, "Oh, slower means, you know, it's not good. Slow is not good." But sometimes slow is good.
There's no place on this earth that's without potential for holiness, or maybe the potential for unearthing holiness right where we are, with these people we are with.
13 years ago, I thought I was ready to become a pastor, It's crazy how one conversation with Eugene started this whole journey. I may have helped some people learn how to trust Jesus. They taught me how to walk like Jesus, how to listen like him, how to risk being known, and how to know others. But there's still a long way to go. When you first heard the word parish, what did you think?
I don't know what he was talking about.
I wondered exactly how are you going to translate what you're doing there here?
I think it might be hard. I think Scotland is a lot calmer than America.
I want to slow down, but I'm not really sure how to do that. I have no idea.
This is going to be hard, but everybody knows that. But there are people here who want to try. Together, we're going to figure out what it means in America to live at God's speed. Hi, my name is Matt. What's your name? Michael. Nice to meet you. Stop visiting the parish.